Welcome back. If you haven't watched the first episode of this digital negative shenanigans, I recommend you stop now, go watch that. A lot easier to understand what's going on. Do that, come back. Okay, now, for those of you who have already watched the other video, I surprised myself by attempting to make a terrible negative, thinking that it was going to be awful, and it turns out it was actually quite good, and it was the easiest, cheapest, most simple way to do this. And now today I'm trying to figure out why that's the case. What happened to make my cheap inkjet negative the best, rather than my fancy piezography system, which is ostensibly mostly calibrated for this? I have a couple of thoughts. The first thing was, okay, maybe I screwed up the coat or the amount of emulsion on that print for the piezography negative. So the next day, because I couldn't sleep about it, I made the same print again. So here is the same negative twice. With the same chemistry, whatever, I just used more chemistry for this one than for this one. But other than that, they're mostly the same. There's a slight tonal difference, but they're close. Now, I think that this looks darker because the border is bigger. So we're gonna go trim the border off this and see if that changes how it feels. So fix this beautiful image in your head forever and for always. I'm gonna go trim this and come back and see. Okay. So, not really is the answer. They look similar enough. That still looks nothing like that. And neither of them really look like the piezography version of this, which is actually on a satin paper, so it's not a fair test. I have a couple of theories as to why this has happened. The most important one is that I'm not actually calibrated for pure palladium. I haven't built a profile for that. The reason I did pure palladium was to try and even the odds, right? I wanted to take what I knew was going to be a high contrast negative and give it every chance that I could to succeed. I did that, but I shot myself in the foot. So as a comparison between a piezography negative that I'm not calibrated for and a very punchy negative in a low contrast process, okay, the regular inkjet printer wins. Good job. It's close. It's actually reasonably close to this because it's a punchier negative. I get it. I don't have quite the detail in the sky that I would like, but you know, more or less the same. Good. Tells me a lot of things about an inexpensive process. The takeaway is, if you're going to do pure palladium, rock and roll. What I'm curious about is if I do this in a process I am calibrated for, which is actually a 20% palladium mix, which should have higher contrast. So we're going to try that right now, see if it makes any difference. It may not. I don't expect it will make a huge difference. What we're then going to do is recalibrate, because the piezography system lets me just go ahead and calibrate. So I'm gonna coat this piece of paper, we'll do a 20% platinum run just to see if there's any difference at all, and then we'll do a step test wedge and calibrate, which is kind of fun to see, even though it's like really nerdy and may not be useful to you. So we have a limited amount of time in which to do this. We're just gonna run through it, rock and roll. Oh man, that humidity. Ready, steady, go. What is this? Is this cancel? Sketchiest shit ever. Oh. Welcome to the Hot Mess Express. Yes, so all we're doing here is printing a step test wedge as a negative that we're going to use with this same process, the pure Palladium prints, with the same profile we used last time. No big deal. Okay, 5 minutes. Alright, so here's what it looks like. Pause now and just think about what you think it's going to do. Is it going to be different? Is it going to be more like it's supposed to? I don't know. Either way, we're going to do a little bit of calibration, so it should be fun. Let's develop this guy real quick. We'll bring a reference in with us. Or do it. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Shouldn't have done that. That's closer. So I would say it's a possible improvement, but not improvement enough. So let's go recalibrate, because we might as well. Okay. Lovely. This is maximum ghetto. Five, 2, 1. Okay. So, what does the calibration process look like, you might ask? You make a step test wedge, and then you take a measuring tool and you measure 129 tones, and you feed those to a graph that then spits out a curve that the piezography system will apply to your new negatives. But first you have to develop and clear this. So that's what's going to happen right now. 1, 2. Now the fun part. Not. Let's go measure this. Okay, so we are going to use this i1 profiler, i1 Pro by X-Rite, and we are going to measure each of the tones on this print, which will automatically get loaded into this program. Then we'll move it from this program into the piezography tool, and then we'll be able to see how close we really are to calibration in pure Palladium, which is how I made this print. It's tragically boring to watch, but you get to watch anyway. See you in like half an hour when I'm done with this. This straight line is what we are aiming for, right? Because it should be a linear response curve on this print. And the red line is what our print actually is, which obviously is too dark pretty much all the way through. So what we're going to do now is take this new curve that the machine generates for us, and basically what it is it's the opposite of this red curve. So the new curve goes up and 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 then comes back where it belongs, right? In like a exact response to this red one. Then all I have to do is go install that curve that we just made on the server that runs all of my prints, uninstall and reinstall my printers, and I'm ready to do a new print that will look exactly the way that it's supposed to. That's the theory. Anyway, that's the hope. But if I do that, this video is going to be like 1,000 years long. So what we may do is have this be like the calibration shenanigans, and then we'll finish off this series of videos in another chapter, another episode, if you will. So we'll take episode 1, which was the, oh god, this is shenanigans. Episode 2 today, which is calibration and figuring out if I screwed it up, which I didn't. It's just the curve that was off for whatever reason. And then we'll do a validation and hopefully be able to make a pure palladium print of this that looks the way that it's supposed to look. What a concept. Yeah. Any questions, comments, concerns, put them in the questions, comments section down below. See you in the next one. Okay, so I'm impatient and I'd like to be able to sleep tonight, and I have to know. So I changed my mind. Here is a piece of paper coated with pure palladium chemistry. I installed the profile on the server and made a new negative, and now we're gonna see how it looks. See if it worked. See if that whole process was worth it or not. So I'm gonna take this negative, trim it out, we'll make a print real quick and just see how this worked. I couldn't stand having a cliffhanger like that, and I have to know. So now you get to come along. So we'll just do this real quick and then we'll know. Okay, go. We'll see. Sheet of paper is way too big. Definitely got lighter. That's pretty freaking close. So, okay, aside for the yellow, which will go away after it clears, and a lot of this is going to dry differently, right? Lower contrast. Substantial improvement. We'll see what it looks like when it's dry, but it's a lot better than it was. I don't know if we want to go that far today, but I feel a lot better having it much closer. For the record, this is not what I do when I have a print that I care about. This is, you don't do this. Okay, so much closer, like good enough for my personal prints closer, not good enough quite yet for client prints on this system close. But okay, so here's what the screen looks like. And then we have the piezography print, which is still gonna have better blacks than really I can pull out of pure palladium, right? That's just life. But then the pure palladium print is starting to get there. Some of these are not quite as deep as I'd like, but much better than what we started with. The mountains and the sky are real close. A lot of the water's pretty close. So if I had to, and I do, which I will do, but I won't make you watch it again, I will go through and do another step test wedge with this new profile, then do the measurements again, which will generate a new curve, which will be just slightly different. And then we'll have a curve that ought to be pretty much right on the money. I know that there are printers in the world who will basically calibrate every day, right? If your temperature, humidity, whatever changes frequently, you calibrate a lot. This calibration process only took me like an hour and a half maybe, something like that, which is pretty good, and I've been doing other stuff in between because that's life. Trying to do this on the inkjet printer, if the image wasn't correct to start with, which it was gorgeous. If we had to do this on the inkjet printer, you can't just necessarily measure it and run it. You have to kind of guess and check, which is a little more painful. But I'd say we're good enough here to be going on with, which means we don't need a third episode of this, which means, I don't know what it means. It means you can, if you're gonna make pure Palladium prints, just invert the image and press print on your printer and you'll be close. Close can be good enough for some people. For me, I gotta keep doing the calibration thing. Anyway, which method would you use? Let us know in the comments down below. And I guess I'll see you in the next one.